We got another one comes in. I guess I'm a voting member. Senator Islam, will you get us started, please?
Yes. Everyone, please join me in prayer. In all parts of ourselves, we are all connected. With every breath, we share this world. May we always feel our connection to those suffering and to all in our world. May they find resilience in memories of the suffering they faced before in the power offered by their connection to others. We trusted in the love and the support of those near us. We trust in the sciences that guide the hands of our nurses, doctors, teachers, police officers, firefighters, and soldiers. But we still trust in the power of the story of our own lives, however long and winding it may be, enveloped by the greater story of life itself. Life is a passage through which we all travel, but we are never alone in that journey, even when far away from those we love. May all of us strive to do right and carry forth justice for those who are too weak to carry themselves. May it be so in light and love.
We're going to adjust the sequence in a little bit. Senator, you're going to be presenting Senate Bill 115, and I'm looking at LC number 520276 Sierra.
Correct, sir.
Okay, come up to the mic, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see if it's, I don't know if this is on, sir.
Try it again.
How about now? No. This one's on? Okay. Is that working, sir? Okay, we'll scoot back and forth. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and good to see everybody, committee members. Today I bring to you Senate Bill 115. This is a bill requested by the National Guard of Georgia and does something pretty simple. It codifies an existing state-sponsored life insurance program that is offered exclusively to members of the Georgia National Guard. And this is Joe Ferreira, and I can introduce him in just a minute. He is a Deputy Adjutant General of the National Guard and is an attorney and has been working on this issue with me, and my gratitude to the chairman for working on this issue with us as well. Essentially, the need for the bill is to make sure that there's continuity in the state-sponsored life insurance program in the event that the current sponsor, which is an acronym GGIT, it's a trust, in the event that that current sponsor somehow is unable to continue sponsoring the life insurance program. So all the bill really does, if you've got the copy in front of you, in lines 17 through 31, it describes activities by the Adjutant General of the National Guard that are already underway. I mean, this is essentially what the Adjutant General is already doing in his capacity as organizational leader of the National Guard to make this state-sponsored life insurance program available. To be clear, the DoD runs a life insurance program for National Guard that has a much higher limits. That's a federally administered program that's not at issue here. We're talking about a state-sponsored life insurance program with benefits of about $25,000. I think, or it might be exactly 25. The benefit of this program, one of the reasons that we keep it around, remains popular, is it's known for its ability to deliver benefits extremely quickly. And that can be obviously critical to families who have a need in immediate aftermath of death. So all this bill does is codify what's already happening, and then lines 32, 33, it designates an affiliate organization, National Guard Association of Georgia, which is primarily staffed by former Guard members who understand the organization and its needs, and it just tasks that organization with responsibility for choosing a substitute insurer in the event, again, that the current sponsor of the program is unable to continue with the insurer that we're using now. So that's basically it. I would yield for, obviously, any questions, but I would direct, I think the questions would be most appropriately tailored for Mr. Ferrero because he is asking for the bill and much more knowledgeable about these issues. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. If there are questions, I'd prefer that you get them just because he can't go to the well.
Understood.
But he can be right on your shoulder there to answer.
Sure.
Are there any questions? Great job explaining it. What is the desire of the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move to pass Senate Bill 115.
Okay, I have a motion to pass. Is there a second? Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Okay. We're going to go now to Senate Bill 97. Senator Anavitarte, if you don't have you can do it from there if you want to. Are you for?
Think so. Can you hear me? Yep.
On yours, I'm looking at LC 540151.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go ahead.
Senate Bill 97 creates the Georgia Cyber Command Division under the Georgia Emergency Management Agency, Homeland Security. The purpose of this bill is to provide transfer of strategic planning, facilitation, coordination of information security, provide for a statewide chief information security officer to manage the command division, outlines powers of the command division. The governor must appoint a statewide chief information security officer. The bill will go into effect January 2024 in terms of the transfer of power between the Georgia Technology Authority and GEMA. This bill came about after 2 to 3 meetings of our study committee talking about cybersecurity and the need to create a cyber force in Georgia. I think it's no secret that based on kind of what's going on in the environment and in the threats that state governments, local governments, school districts are under, there's a significant concern, I think, to assets the state has and owns, and also data the state collects and sits on related to the citizens that we represent across the state. To be transparent, and I know the study committee members who participated in the study committee, one of the recommendations was based on the work that we saw in Arizona under Governor Ducey in terms of creating a dedicated cyber entity within state government, separating itself from the information technology purpose of their technology agency in Arizona. We also saw that for the first time ever in Arizona, unlike many other states, there's a dedicated budget line item for cybersecurity that's transparent, that the public knows what those investments are. And we know that also recently, as of this morning, in the adopted Senate amended budget, there was an investment made under GEMA for cybersecurity for $1 million, which, $1 million towards dealing with cyber is like not even putting a dent in the truck. But I think as elected officials or the people we represent, I think demonstrating that we're serious about it and it's transparent about what we're doing, I think is important to the taxpayers in the state. I'm going to just briefly kind of go through the bill, Mr. Chairman, then I'll kind of open it up for questions. So basically, the Georgia Cyber Command Division would establish standards for state agencies to submit information security plans to the division, can establish policy standards and services for all state agencies, will advise the legislative, judicial state agencies and the Board of Regents on any security needs, will conduct information security, privacy protection, compliance reviews for state agencies. The command will conduct statewide training programs for state employees. Senate Bill 97 establishes a state security operations center for detection, reporting, and response efforts for security incidents across the state. It will also adopt a security mission statement involving the fostering of cooperations between agencies, emphasizing protection of state assets and focusing on rapid response of any incidents. I know feedback that I've received from security officials, law enforcement, and even private sector CISOs from the large Fortune 100s all the way down to medium and small businesses. Their concern has always been as to whether, how do we collaborate more? How do we bring more private sector assets, resources, expertise to the table to help state government? And I think also, too, with a separate conversation of how do we grow the cyber workforce in K-12 and at the higher education level, which is a separate conversation. These two things, I think, over time are intertwined as we look at investment across the state. The Cyber Command will work with the Department of Administrative Services to understand security aspects of new and existing technologies for projects across the state. They will monitor loans, grants, and guarantees from the federal and state. And also this will allow the CISO to suspend any operations of information infrastructure with any breaches involved with the operation. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield for questions.
Are there any questions? Y'all got this thing down. You're 100% comfortable with it. All right. Great job explaining it there, Senator. What is the will of the committee? We have a motion to pass. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, congratulations, Senator. It was because of that well-done presentation there.
Trying to be quick, the hour's late.
But still important that we go through it. Senator Beach, welcome. You're going to discuss Senate Bill 132?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And when you're ready,
I'll give these handouts out first.
okay. Okay, thank you. Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at LC 510301.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Senate Bill 132, LC 510301. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I bring before you Senate Bill 132. And I want you to know I am a property rights guy. I think you ought to be able to sell your property when you're ready to sell your property. But what this bill does, it prohibits the Chinese Communist government from buying our Georgia farmland within with our land within a 25-mile radius of a military installation in the state of Georgia. You know, ag is our #1 business in the state of Georgia. And if you look at lines 12 through 15, it describes what farmland is. Agriculture land means land capable of use in production of agricultural crops, livestock products, poultry products, milk or dairy products, or fruit and other horticulture projects. So that's kind of what the farmland is described in those lines. Then if you flip over to lines 17 through 39, that describes what a non-resident and that is a subject of a foreign government that is designated as a country of particular concern by the U.S. Secretary of State. And that's what this bill does. It looks at, there are 5 countries in the United States on the United States Secretary list of peculiar concerns: Communist China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, and North Korea. So, Mr. Chairman, I tell you what I think, and the reason I'm bringing this bill forward is I think it's a national security issue. And I just handed you a handout that talks about what they're doing on the federal level with Senator Tommy Tuberville and various other ones. And I'd like to just read you it's on page 2, I believe, on this handout. And this is kind of and this is from Representative Abigail Spansberger of Virginia. And this is bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats. And her quote is this: "Direct foreign investment in American agriculture and infrastructure has skyrocketed, and the Chinese Communist Party has driven much of this growth," Ms. Spanberger said. "In the face of significant foreign investment in American farmland, we need to recognize how foreign actors could pose potential threats to our economic strength, the competitiveness of our ag industry, and our national security." And just to give you an example, and I got these numbers from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. In 2010, the Chinese Communist government owned 12,000 acres of U.S. farmland. Today, that figure is 268,000 acres of farmland, with another 2 million acres that we're not sure who really owns. We don't know. These are figures, again, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So, in closing, this is a very simple 2.5-page bill. The Chinese Communist government is playing a 30-year long game. They want to control our debt and our food supply. And this is methodical, and it's long-term plan that they have. I would say this: they're playing chess and we're playing checkers. And Mr. Chairman, I'd ask for your favorable consideration on SB 132. There has been some talk, is this unconstitutional? Since these 5 nations are on the list of actors that are members of a particular concern, I don't think it is, because The U.S. Secretary of State has put them on this list. So I think we have every right to decide and not allow bad actors to buy our farmland and threaten our food supply. This is a big issue, and we need to be aware of this before we wake up one day and they control us and control our food supply. So with that, I would ask for your favorable consideration, and I'll entertain any questions.
You do have questions.
Yes.
Senator?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, would like to understand, if possible, the sort of targeting mechanism of the bill in terms of the individuals that it, categorizes as unable to, subject to these prohibitions. I mean, maybe I already know the answer to this question, but I mean, and I guess I'll just kind of guess and see if I'm right. Is the idea behind having individuals, natural persons, as the target of the legislation that those people potentially could be straw purchasers for a government entity, or is there actually an intent in the bill to target individuals of a certain nationality regardless of whether they are actually acting on behalf of the state?
This has nothing to do with nationality. This has to do with the communist Chinese government buying our farmland and buying our and I mean, it is a well-known fact. If you look in this article also, let me see what page that's on. The Chinese have already bought, they've purchased for $4.7 billion, and this is the Chinese Communist government, Virginia-based Smithfield Foods, which controls pork and so on. They own that, and they've paid, and that's not a straw buyer, or that is the Chinese Communist government owns Smithfield.
So if
And that ought to scare you.
Well, and I agree with the value, statement that you're making about direct foreign investment in terms of governments themselves. I guess the
Right.
question I'm asking in terms of the scope of the bill is, does the bill need to apply the prohibition to natural persons and individuals if the real fear is corporate organizational investment by the government itself or its subsidiaries? Because I guess part of what you raise about constitutionality and the interest groups or advocacy groups that are weighing in on this, I think a lot of them are concerned that this could be a vehicle for discrimination against individual natural persons. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out, is there a pathway where this bill could be limited to targeting only the corporate or organizational investment?
I can tell you this, there is no intent to discriminate. I will tell you that I've met with some folks that grew up in mainland China, and they applaud us for doing this. They said, we know what they're up to. They're trying to infiltrate and buy our land. They want to feed their people, not us. They're our enemies, and we better wake up.
Final question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
If you just hold for a second. Senator, Mr. Chairman, I think the answer to this question is yes, though. Even if you don't do an individual that's a citizen, still a citizen of that particular entity, they could be a straw purchaser for the. If you just put it as a business, then and you were talking about playing chess a little while ago, then they put it down to the next one. So we're back here again doing the same thing again. Is that where you're going with this?
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, to that exact point, I mean, I figured that would be the rationale for targeting natural persons, but, obviously my preference would be for a bill that was more narrowly tailored to organizational or corporate investment. But I guess, if the will of the committee is to be worried about the straw purchaser problem, I can see how the committee would take a different direction. So that was the only thing I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I understand. And I'm not trying to take over the chairman's presentation here, but one of these countries doesn't always have to be on the list. They come and go, and if they come off the list, then that prohibition against a very prescribed thing that they can't buy, parcels that they can't buy, then would also go away. So is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Could I ask one question
Sure.
about that? Because that's an interesting point. Is there a mechanism in this bill to make sure that if the list changes, that some legal process that, there are some time periods in here that get triggered, right, by the designation of that status? And I'm like, for example, look at lines 40 through 42, disposed of within 3 years. I mean, I'm wondering if that process starts and you trigger it with respect to somebody that comes from a country in question, but that comes off the list, does that automatically discharge the applicability of that provision, or you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. So 50 years from now, could somebody come back and go, we want restitution for this property that would have been ours?
That's less my question, sir. It's more if, let's say, this 40 through 42 starts to apply, right? You know, the time trigger starts for 3 years, and then a year later, the country in question that links them to the statute or the code section is removed from the list. Does that mean they still, you know, is that dispossession requirement still active because it was generated during the period when they were on? You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I do. I'll be glad to answer it, but this is your bill.
You know, you answered.
Yeah, but the law is the law as it's in place at a given time. It doesn't take into account future hypotheticals. So the short answer to your question, as a lawyer, I think that you're testing me to see if I'm learning your lessons, and I'm paying attention to you.
Well, no, Mr. Chairman. I just mean if the will of the committee would be to remove the discharge, you know, remove the applicability of that provision, then I would think there would need to be additional language that would basically cancel out the effect of the bill once somebody comes off the list.
No, I see it as if the action took place while that was in place, then it stands as is.
I agree with the chairman's read.
Okay.
Thank you.
Senator, any other?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Push your. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for bringing this. I just had a question about whether this would have any impact. What do you do if somebody buys the property who's not supposed to buy it? Now, how would you undo that? And then the other question is, if they terminate their non-resident alien status, what would they have to do that?
That's addressed in line 40 through 42. And then also 43 through 45. Any such interest in agricultural land acquired by a non-resident alien shall be disposed of within 1 year after acquiring such interest.
Did I answer
The
your
Commissioner
question?
of Agriculture would oversee this along with the Secretary of State.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any other questions? What is the will of the committee? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, do pass Senate Bill 132, LC 510301.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? We have you already got the second one. You get the, Sir Kirkpatrick on this one. And we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Senator Islam. If I'm going to haze you, I'd prefer you be up. No. It's your first one. If you don't mind, I would prefer that you come up. And it's not hazing. It's just. It's because.
All right.
It's not hazing. Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Okay.
Senator, I'm looking at the Senate Bill 144, and I'm looking at LC 460528.
Correct.
Okay, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the committee for hearing this bill. I'm proud to present SB 144. This bill is very simple. It will protect our troops and save taxpayer money. The bill is amending Code Section 38-2-151 of the OCGA relating to Adjutant General duties, records, seal, and effect on documentary evidence so as to remove the requirement that the Adjutant General include a roster of all commissioned officers in the organized militia in the annual report to the governor, to provide for the removal of the requirement that the laws and regulations of such militia shall be indexed, printed, bound, and distributed to all forces of the militia. SB 144 will eliminate the requirement for the Georgia National Guard to publish the names of all commissioned officers of the Georgia National Guard in their annual report. Eliminating this requirement will enhance personal security for the officers. Unfortunately, the annual report has been found on the internet exposing the names of our commission officers for the world to see. This makes it too easy for nefarious actors to find personal information and target these officers and their families. SB 144 will also eliminate the requirement for the Georgia National Guard to print, publish, and distribute all the laws and regulations that pertain to the National Guard. According to the Deputy Adjutant General Joe Ferrero, the amount of information covered by this requirement is voluminous and ever-changing. It is impossible to keep up with this requirement and expensive to attempt. And while the internet creates concerns of personal security, which are addressed in this legislation, it is of great benefit for organizing and making the statutory and regulatory information available to all who need it. And according to the Adjutant General Joe Ferrero, the authorities responsible for all the regulations have very organized website publication sites where the Georgia National Guard, they know how to find what they need. And similarly, statutes are all published on the internet and are easy to find. Mr. Chairman and members of this committee, I would like to ask for your favorable consideration. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Why are we keeping the non-commissioned officers on the list?
So the non-commissioned officers we already don't report them, so we don't have to repeal them off of this in this bill. Is that what you were asking?
Yes.
Okay.
But I want to make sure that since this is applying to 38-2-151, when you looked at 38-2-150, are you sure there's no conflict between the two?
I believe I need to double check. No, there is no conflict. Okay.
Just then you warmed up. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, he's just getting you ready for
I see.
the floor. I just wanted to congratulate you on saving a lot of trees and streamlining government, which is always a good thing. I just was curious if you know why that was ever a requirement to publish that list. You could phone a friend if you don't know.
If I may. So this was written in, the last time it was really revised was 1954, so that's even older than I am, so I can't really say. But I think it was a kind of a point of pride that they wanted to let the world know who our 1,500 officers in the National Guard were. And it's just really kind of overcome by modern events. And we'd really like for personal security to not list that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Jason, you had a question? Okay, go ahead.
So, quick question for the senator: do you know who the Adjutant General of Georgia is? You can phone a friend.
It's not.
Tom Cardin.
You just call him Tom?
General Tom Cardin.
Okay.
Awesome. Good job.
I was glad to know y'all on a first name basis now. Okay, Senator, a long time ago, it was a requirement to have the names listed. Do you know the answer to your question? No. Well, they were using rollerballs then. It wasn't a quill. But it mirrors kind of the federal stuff where the names had to go forward. And it's a legacy thing that no longer is pertinent. It went the same way of calling cards. Do you remember those? It looked like a business card with just your name on it, and you're right. Okay. Any other questions? You have a question?
Mr. Chairman, appropriate time, make a motion.
I have a motion to pass.
Do pass? Yep.
And a second. Any further discussion? Senator, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I'm not done yet. Just prepare yourself for yours is going to be too easy to have a lot of fun with up there. So there's too many loopholes. So with no further discussion, what is the will of the committee? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? She said something about skiwee. I don't know. I couldn't figure out what it was. Motion, bill passes. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
With that, meeting's adjourned.